Somebody help. Please. Amara's scream tore through the chaos of Balagan Market as the stranger collapsed into her arms, blood streaming down his face and soaking into her faded yellow wrapper. Around them, vendors scattered like frightened birds, abandoning their stalls as if the wounded man carried a curse. Move back. He could be an armed robber, someone shouted. Don't touch him, Amara. The police will blame you, her neighbor Mama Ngozi warned, pulling at her arm. But Amara couldn't move. The man's eyes, deep brown and desperate, locked onto hers with an intensity that made her heart stop. His lips moved, forming silent words she couldn't hear over the pounding of her own pulse. Then his hand, trembling and covered in dirt and blood, reached up and touched her cheek with impossible gentleness. His voice came out as barely a whisper. I finally found you. Before Amara could ask what he meant, his eyes rolled back and his body went limp in her arms. No. Sir, please wake up. Amara pressed her hand against the gash on his head, feeling his blood warm and sticky between her fingers. Her mind raced. The nearest hospital was too far. The clinic, yes, Nurse Adana's clinic was just 2 streets away, but the consultation fee alone was 3,000 naira. 3,000 naira she'd planned to use for her grandmother's medications this week. She looked down at the stranger's face. Even unconscious and bleeding, there was something hauntingly familiar about him, something that tugged at a memory she couldn't quite grasp. Behind her, she heard the whispers growing louder. That's expensive clothing, even torn like that. Those shoes are Italian leather. I know because my Ogo wears them. Could be one of those big men. Amara, you're making trouble for yourself. Amara's grandmother had always told her, Amara NWAM, a kind heart is never a wasted seed. Plant it, even in hard soil, and God will remember. She made her decision. Help me carry him, Amara commanded, surprising herself with the strength in her voice. When no one moved, she hoisted the stranger's arm over her shoulder, nearly buckling under his weight.
Fine.
I'll do it myself. As she dragged him through the market, leaving a trail of blood drops on the dusty ground, Amara had no idea that this moment, this choice, would shatter everything she thought she knew about her life. She didn't know that the wounded man in her arms was Chidi Okonkwo, the billionaire whose face appeared on every business magazine and billboard across Lagos. She didn't know that he'd been searching for her for 15 years. She didn't know that saving him would paint a target on her back. And she definitely didn't know that before she was born, their fates had already been intertwined by a promise, a tragedy, and a debt that destiny was finally ready to collect. All Amara knew, as she stumbled toward the clinic with her arms burning and her heart hammering, was that she couldn't let him die. Not today. Not this stranger with the familiar eyes who'd whispered those impossible words. I finally found you. Hello guys. Welcome to my channel. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and share it with your friends. Drop your thoughts and reactions in the comments. What would you have done if this happened to you? Let's dive in. 6 hours earlier. The morning sun hadn't yet burned away the Harmattan haze when Amara arrived at Balagan Market, balancing a large basin of vegetables on her head. At 19, she'd mastered the art of navigating Lagos's chaotic streets, dodging Okada motorcycles, stepping over open gutters, and weaving through the sea of humanity that flooded the market district every day. Amara. Fresh tomatoes today, called out Baba Tund from his fabric stall. Yes, sir. Very fresh from Sabo Farm, she replied with a bright smile that disguised her exhaustion. She'd woken at 4 a.m. to make the trip to the farm and back, just like every Tuesday and Friday. Her stall was modest, just a wooden table with an umbrella her grandmother had bought years ago, now patched with duct tape and prayers. But it was hers. Every naira she earned here kept food on their table and bought her grandmother's blood pressure medications. As Amara arranged her tomatoes, peppers, and spinach into attractive pyramids, her best friend Zaina brushed over, breathless with excitement. Amara, you didn't hear? There was an attack on the Lekki Ikoyi Bridge this morning. They're saying armed robbers ambushed some billionaire's convoy. 3 cars burned. Zainab's eyes were wide with the thrill of gossip. Yeah. Were people hurt? Amara asked, her hands never stopping their work. They're not saying. But imagine, even with all that money and security, danger still found him. Zainab shook her head. Sometimes I think being rich brings its own walla. Amara smiled softly. Well, we don't have to worry about that kind of problem. The morning passed in its usual rhythm, haggling with customers who swore her tomatoes were too expensive even though she was selling below market price. Watching wealthy women in expensive cars send their house helps to buy vegetables while they sat in air-conditioned comfort. Sharing jokes with Mom Ngozi, who sold bushmeat next to her stall and always had the juiciest market gossip. By noon, the market was at its peak chaos, a symphony of shouting vendors, blaring car horns, and Afrobeats music competing from different speakers. The heat was oppressive, turning the air thick and hard to breathe. That's when Amara saw him. At first, he was just a figure stumbling through the crowd, moving wrong, too unsteady, too desperate. People were jumping out of his way, their faces twisted in fear and confusion. Then she saw the blood. It stained his white shirt, now torn and filthy. His expensive-looking trousers were ripped at the knees. One of his shoes was missing. And his face, God, his face was a mask of pain and determination, with blood streaming from a vicious gash across his forehead. Help. The word came out raspy, barely audible. Please help me. Their eyes met across the crowded market aisle. Time seemed to slow down. Something passed between them in that moment. Recognition, though Amara couldn't explain it. Like finding something precious she'd lost long ago, but had forgotten she was looking for. Then his legs gave out. Amara didn't think. She just moved, dropping the tomatoes in her hand and running toward him. She reached him just as he fell, catching him against her body, feeling his weight and warmth and the sticky wetness of his blood. Somebody help. Please. And that's when everything changed. The clinic smelled of antiseptic and desperation. Nurse Adana worked quickly, her experienced hands cleaning the stranger's wounds while Amara hovered nearby, wringing her blood-stained wrapper. This man needs a hospital, Amara. That head wound could be serious, Nurse Adana said, her voice tight with concern. Please, just stabilize him. I'll pay whatever it costs. Amara's voice cracked. She'd already emptied her day's earnings onto the counter. 2,800 naira. Not enough, but all she had. Nurse Adana sighed, her eyes softening. You and that soft heart. One day it will be your destruction. But she continued working. 2 hours later, the stranger's eyes finally opened. He stared at the ceiling, disoriented. Then his gaze found Amara sitting in the corner chair, and something shifted in his expression, relief mixed with wonder. You stayed, he whispered. You're awake. Thank God. Amara moved closer. What's your name? Who did this to you? Should I call the police? No. The word came out sharp, panicked. He tried to sit up and winced, his hand flying to his bandaged head. No police. Please. Amara's eyes narrowed. Are you a criminal? No. He paused, and she watched him make a decision. My name is Chitty. Just Chitty. I was robbed. They took everything, my phone, my wallet, He stopped, seeming to catch himself. Everything. Where do you live? Your family must be worried. Chitty's laugh was bitter. I have no family. Never did. The words pierced Amara's heart. She understood that loneliness too well. Well, you can't stay here. Nurse Adana will chase us out soon. She hesitated. I don't have much, but there's a room behind my grandmother's house. It's small, but you can stay there until you're strong enough. Chitty stared at her like she'd offered him the world. Why? Why would you do this for a stranger? Amara shrugged, suddenly shy. My grandmother always says kindness is never wasted. Besides, she smiled. You're not really a stranger anymore. You're Chitty who got robbed and lives in my backyard now. For the first time, Chitty smiled, a real smile that transformed his bruised face. What's your name?
Amara.
Amara Okafor. Something flickered in his eyes. Recognition? Pain? It vanished before she could identify it. What Amara didn't see was Chitty's hands trembling as he processed the name. What she didn't hear was the voice in his head screaming, "It's her." After 15 years, I found her. 3 days later, Chitty sat in the small room behind Amara's grandmother's house, staring at his reflection in a cracked mirror. The swelling had gone down, revealing the face that had graced business magazines and tech conference posters across Africa. He'd sent a coded message through a phone Amara had helped him buy with borrowed money. Just 3 words to his head of security. "I'm alive. Wait." Now, watching Amara through the window as she swept the compound, humming a song he remembered from childhood, Chitty was transported back 15 years. Flashback, Lagos, 2010. 8-year-old Chitty huddled under the Ojuelegba Bridge, his stomach a knot of hunger. He'd been on the streets for 2 weeks since the orphanage burned down. Nobody wanted a boy with no name, no family, no future. "Hello." He looked up. A little girl, maybe 4 years old, stood before him holding a lunchbox. Her school uniform was neat, her hair braided with colorful beads. "My mama packed too much food," she said solemnly, extending the box. "You can have half." I don't have money," Chitty whispered. "I don't want money. I want a friend. Do you want to be friends?" For 3 months, the little girl came every day after school. She shared her lunch, told him stories about her school, taught him the alphabet in the dirt with a stick. She never asked why he lived under a bridge. She just came, faithful as sunrise. "What's your name?" Chitty finally asked one day.
Amara.
"It means grace." She smiled, gap-toothed and beautiful. "What's yours?" I don't remember. They called me boy at the orphanage." "Then I'll call you Chitty. It means God exists. Because he sent me to find you." One Tuesday, she didn't come. Chitty waited for hours, days, weeks. He learned later that a family on her street had died in a terrible car accident, parents killed instantly, leaving a little girl orphaned. Chitty never saw his angel again. But he never forgot her. He survived. Educated himself in the public library. Got a scholarship through sheer determination. Built a tech empire from nothing. And every year on that Tuesday, he searched, hired investigators, checked schools, followed every lead. Searching for the girl named Amara, who taught him that kindness existed in a cruel world. Present day. "Chitty, food is ready." Amara called from the main house. Chitty stood slowly, his heart hammering. She didn't remember him. She'd been too young, and trauma had probably erased those months from her memory. But he remembered. Every detail. Every shared laugh. Every reason he owed her everything. At dinner, Amara's grandmother studied him with shrewd eyes. "You have the look of someone running from something, young man." "Grandma, leave him alone," Amara protested. "Or running toward something," the old woman continued, her gaze never leaving Chitty's face. "The question is, which one?" Chitty met her eyes. "Maybe both, Mama." The grandmother nodded slowly. "Well, whatever you're running from, you've found safety here. My Amara has a gift for saving wounded things." If only they knew, Chitty thought, watching Amara dish out rice and stew with generous hands despite having so little. If only they knew that the wounded boy she'd saved 15 years ago had become Chitty Okonkwo, worth 847 billion naira, owner of 3 tech companies, a man whose disappearance had sparked a nationwide search. If only they knew that the same people who'd ambushed him were still hunting, determined to finish what they'd started. And if only Amara knew that by saving him again, she placed herself directly in their crosshairs. But Chitty would protect her, the same way she'd once protected him, even if it cost him everything. Chitty's recovery was swift, but he moved carefully, pretending to be weaker than he was. He needed time to observe Amara, time to plan, time to ensure she was truly safe before revealing who he was. What he discovered broke his heart. Amara woke at 4 a.m. every market day, walking dangerous streets alone to reach the farms. She skipped meals to ensure her grandmother ate. Her clothes were patched and repatched. The roof leaked in 3 places. And yet, she never complained. "Why don't you go to university?" Chitty asked one evening as they sat outside, watching the sunset paint Lagos orange and gold. Amara's laugh was tinged with sadness. "With what money? After my parents died, I had to drop out of secondary school to take care of Grandma. University is a dream for people in different circumstances." "You're smart, though. I see you reading those books from the street vendors." "Reading is free. Dreaming is free." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Living costs money. Chitty made a decision. The next morning, while Amara was at the market, he made a call on the phone she'd bought him. "Marcus, it's me." "Boss." "Oh God. Where are you?" "We've been searching." "Listen carefully. I need you to do exactly as I say. Anonymous donations, understand? She can never know they're from me." Within days, mysterious blessings began appearing in Amara's life. The landlord suddenly reduced their rent by half, said he'd received an anonymous donation earmarked for their house. Nurse Adana waived her clinic fees, claiming a generous benefactor had paid off debts for several families. Amara's grandmother's medications arrived free from a new pharmacy program for elderly patients. "It's like God is finally answering our prayers," Amara told Chitty, her eyes shining with tears of gratitude. "After so many years of struggle, things are finally looking up." Chitty smiled, keeping a secret. But his head of security, Marcus, had other news. "Sir, we have a problem. The people who attacked you, it wasn't random robbery. It was the Okoro Syndicate. They want your blockchain patent, and they've put out word in the streets. They know someone helped you at Balagan Market. They're searching for a girl." Chitty's blood turned to ice. "How long do we have?" "Maybe a week. 2 if we're lucky." "Boss, you need to tell her the truth. She needs protection." That night, Chitty couldn't sleep. Through the thin walls, he could hear Amara singing softly as she prepared for the next day. The same tune she used to hum under the Ojalegba Bridge 15 years ago. He thought about revealing everything, his identity, their shared past, the dangers circling closer. But the words stuck in his throat. What if she rejected him? What if she thought he was using her? What if the truth destroyed this fragile piece she'd found? His phone buzzed. A message from Marcus with a single photo attachment. Chitty opened it and felt his world tilt. It was a surveillance photo of the Okoro Syndicate's hit squad. And on their table, clear as day, was a printout of a grainy photo from the market, the moment Amara had caught him in her arms. Below the photo, someone had circled her face in red marker. Chitty's hands shook as he read Marcus's follow-up message. "They've identified her. Moving tonight. I'm sending a team now." But now might already be too late. Because at that exact moment, 3 streets away, 2 men on a motorcycle were pulling up to Balagan Market, asking questions. "Yes, I know her," Mom Ngozi was saying, counting the crisp Naira notes they'd handed her. "Amara Okafor. Sweet girl. Lives with her grandmother on Adeniji Street. Yellow house with the blue gate. Can't miss it." The men smiled, and Mom Ngozi didn't notice that their smiles never reached their eyes. Didn't notice the guns hidden under their shirts. Didn't realize she'd just sold a girl's life for 20,000 naira. Chitty burst out of his room, startling Amara, who was bringing him dinner. "We need to leave. Right now."
"What?"
"Chitty, what's wrong?" "There's no time to explain. Please, Amara. Trust me. We need to get you and your grandmother somewhere safe." Amara's grandmother appeared in the doorway, her old eyes sharp and knowing. "The hunters have come, haven't they? I knew this day would arrive." She looked at Chitty. "Who are you really, young man?" Before Chitty could answer, they heard it, the roar of a motorcycle engine cutting off outside. The screech of the gate being forced open. Heavy footsteps in the compound. "Too late," Chitty whispered. He grabbed Amara's hand. "When I tell you to run, you run. Don't look back. Don't hesitate. Promise me." "Chitty, you're scaring me." The front door exploded inward in a shower of splinters. 2 men stood silhouetted against the night, and moonlight glinted off the barrels of their guns. "Hello, Amara," the taller one said with a smile that promised violence. "Someone wants to talk to you about the man you helped." And he doesn't like to be kept waiting. Chitty stepped in front of Amara, his body a shield, and for the first time, she saw the man beneath the wounds, the steel, the power, the absolute certainty of someone used to command. "You'll have to go through me first," Chitty said quietly. The men laughed. They didn't know who they were facing. They didn't know that the wounded stranger they'd been hired to clean up was the same man who'd built an empire from nothing. They didn't know that Chitty Okonkwo hadn't survived the streets, cutthroat business wars, and assassination attempts by being weak. They were about to find out. And Amara was about to discover that the helpless man she'd saved was anything but helpless. The truth, as it always does, was about to explode into the light. The taller gunman took a step forward, his weapon trained on Chitty. "Move aside, wounded man.
We don't want you."
Just the girl. "Last chance to walk away," Chitty said, his voice dropping to a dangerous calm. The men exchanged amused glances. Brave talk for someone who can barely.
Chitty moved.
Years of Krav Maga training, learned during his years building security for his tech empire, exploded into action. He grabbed a wooden chair and swung it in one fluid motion, smashing it into the first gunman's wrist. The gun clattered to the floor. Before the second man could react, Chitty was on him, using techniques that turned the attacker's size against him. Within seconds, both men were on the ground, groaning. Amara stood frozen, her mouth open in shock. "Chitty, how did you—" "Run.
Now."
Chitty grabbed the fallen guns, then seized Amara's hand and her grandmother's arm. They burst out the back door just as more motorcycle engines roared to life outside. "There are more?" Amara gasped, terror flooding her voice. "Many more. Move." They ran through the back alleys of the neighborhood, Amara's grandmother surprisingly spry despite her age. Behind them, shouts and gunshots echoed through the night. "Chitty, I don't understand. Why are they after me? Who are you?" Amara's voice broke with confusion and fear. Before he could answer, a black SUV screeched to a stop at the alley's end. Amara screamed, but then the door opened, and a man in tactical gear stepped out.
"Boss."
"Thank God. We're surrounded. We need to move now." "Marcus." Chitty breathed in relief. "Get them in the vehicle." "Wait, boss. You called him boss." Amara turned to Chitty, her eyes wide with dawning realization. "Who are you?" There was no more time for deception. No more hiding. "My name is Chitty Okonkwo," he said, meeting her eyes as Marcus hurried them into the armored SUV. "And you're in danger because 15 years ago, you saved my life. Now I'm trying to save yours." The safe house was a luxury penthouse in Victoria Island, a different universe from Amara's tiny compound. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Lagos's glittering skyline. The furniture probably cost more than her house. Amara stood in the middle of the living room, trembling, still processing everything. Her grandmother sat calmly on the leather sofa, seemingly unsurprised by the revelation. "Chitty Okonkwo," Amara whispered, finally placing the name. "The tech billionaire. The one who created Easy Pay. The one whose face is on the billboard near the bridge." "Yes. The one who was attacked and went missing 3 weeks ago. The one everyone's been searching for." "Yes. And you've been hiding in my backyard this whole time." Chitty nodded, guilt washing over his face. "I'm sorry. I was going to tell you, You lied to me." Amara's voice was small, hurt. "I helped you because you seemed lost and alone. Not because you're rich. Did you think I'd only help you if I knew you had money?"
"No. God, no."
"Amara, that's the opposite of why I didn't tell you. You're the first person in 15 years who saw me as just human. Not as Chitty Okonkwo, the billionaire, the company, the brand. Just as a man who needed help. Do you know how rare that is?" Marcus cleared his throat. "Sir, we need to brief you both on the threat level." Over the next hour, Marcus explained everything. The Okoro Syndicate had been trying to steal Chitty's revolutionary blockchain technology for months. When negotiations and corporate espionage failed, they'd resorted to violence, the ambush on the bridge that was meant to end in Chitty's death. "But you survived," Marcus continued, pulling up photos on a tablet. And when they realized someone helped you escape, they decided to tie up all loose ends. Anyone who could identify them. Anyone who could testify. They want to kill me, Amara said flatly, because I saw their faces that day in the market. We have operatives working to neutralize the threat, Marcus assured her. But it will take time. Until then, you both need to stay here, under protection. After Marcus left, silence filled the penthouse. Amara's grandmother had been taken to one of the guest bedrooms to rest. Amara stood at the window, staring out at the city lights, her arms wrapped around herself. I need to know something, she said quietly. That first day, when you collapsed in my arms, you said something. You said, I finally found you. What did you mean? Chitty moved to stand beside her, careful to maintain distance. Do you remember when you were very young? Maybe 4 or 5 years old. Before your parents died. Amara's brow furrowed. Some things. Why? Do you remember a boy? A street boy who lived under the Ojalegba Bridge? A boy you shared your lunch with every day? Amara's breath caught. Fragments of memory, dusty and half-forgotten, began to surface. A thin boy with sad eyes. Laughter shared over rice and chicken. Drawing letters in the dirt with a stick. That was you? Her voice was barely a whisper. You saved my life back then, Amara. Not just with food, though God knows I needed it. You saved me with kindness. You made an invisible boy feel seen. You gave me hope when I had none. Chitty's voice thickened with emotion. When you disappeared, I survived because I promised myself that one day, if I ever became successful, I'd find you. I'd repay what you gave me. Tears streamed down Amara's face. I remember now. I called you Chitty. I named you. You gave me more than a name. You gave me a reason to keep living. Every business I built, every success I achieved, it was all driven by the memory of a little girl who proved that goodness existed in this world. Amara turned to face him fully. And now I'm in danger, because I helped you again. I will fix this. I promise you. Those men will never touch you. How can you be sure? Chitty's expression hardened, and for the first time, Amara saw the ruthless businessman beneath the gentle exterior. Because I have resources they can't imagine. Money, lawyers, security teams, government connections. And because... He paused, vulnerability breaking through. Because I failed to protect you once, when your parents died, and I couldn't find you. I won't fail again. It wasn't your fault. You were just a child. I'm not a child anymore. Amara studied him, this man who was a stranger, and yet not a stranger. This billionaire who'd hidden in her backyard and washed dishes with her grandmother. This warrior who'd fought armed men to protect her. What happens now? She asked.
Now we end this.
Tomorrow, I'm meeting with the syndicate's boss. Face to face. That's insane. They'll kill you.
No.
Chitty's smile was dangerous. They think they're hunting a wounded man. They don't know I've spent the last 3 weeks gathering evidence of every illegal operation they run. Tomorrow, I give them a choice. Back off, or I destroy their entire empire. And if they refuse, then I destroy them anyway. Marcus burst back into the room, his face urgent. Sir, we have a problem. The syndicate just released a video. They're threatening to bomb Balagan Market tomorrow at noon unless you turn yourself in. The blood drained from Amara's face. All those people, Mom Ngozi, Zainab, Baba Tund, they'll all be killed. It's a trap, Marcus said. They know you'll try to save them. They're betting on it. Chitty stood motionless, his mind racing through scenarios and possibilities. Then we don't disappoint them, he finally said. We spring their trap. But we'll be ready. Boss, this is exactly what they want. I know. Chitty turned to Amara. I need to ask you something, and I'll understand if you say no. But I need someone who knows the market, knows the people, knows every exit and hiding place. Amara understood immediately. You want me to help you save them. I want you safe. But those people, they're your family. And I know you. You won't be able to live with yourself if you hide here while they're in danger. He was right. Amara thought of Mom Ngozi, who'd loaned her money when her grandmother was sick. Zainab, who was like a sister. Baba Tund, who'd given her his umbrella when hers broke. She couldn't let them die. "Tell me the plan," she said. Marcus groaned. "This is insane." Chitty smiled. "Probably. But we've got 12 hours to make it work." He looked at Amara with something like pride. "You saved me twice. Tomorrow, we save them together." Outside, Lagos slept uneasily. And in a warehouse across the city, the Okoro syndicate prepared for what they thought would be their final victory. They had no idea that the poor girl from Balagan Market and the billionaire genius were about to teach them a lesson they'd never forget. Some debts, it turns out, can only be paid with courage. And some kindnesses echo across lifetimes, creating bonds that no amount of danger can break. The morning sun rose over Balagan Market, but instead of the usual chaos, an eerie quiet hung in the air. The syndicate's threat video had spread through social media overnight. Most vendors had stayed home. The few who came to protect their livelihoods moved nervously, eyes darting to every shadow. At 11 a.m., Chitty stood in the center of the market, exactly where he'd collapsed 3 weeks ago. He wore a simple shirt and jeans, hands visible and empty. Around him, Marcus had positioned a dozen security operatives dressed as vendors, customers, delivery drivers. Snipers watched from nearby rooftops. And Amara, against everyone's objections, stood beside him. "You don't have to do this," Chitty said for the 10th time. "Yes, I do. This is my market. These are my people." Amara's voice was steady despite her fear. Under her colorful wrapper, she wore a bulletproof vest. In her ear, a tiny communication device connected her to Marcus's team. At 11:45 a.m., they arrived. 5 black cars rolled into the market with predatory grace. Men in expensive suits emerged, flanked by armed guards. And from the center vehicle stepped a man in his 60s, silver-haired, distinguished, radiating the kind of power that comes from decades of getting away with evil. Chief Okoro himself. Chitty Okonkwo, the old man said with an oily smile. "The boy genius. I must say, I'm impressed you survived my welcome committee." "Let's skip the pleasantries, Chief. You threatened innocent people to draw me out. I'm here. Let them go." "Oh, the market is already clear. I'm a businessman, not a monster." Chief Okoro's eyes slid to Amara. "But this girl, she's seen too much. She's a loose end. She's under my protection. Touch her, and I'll end you." Chief Okoro laughed. "Such drama. Boy, you're worth billions, yes. But I have politicians, judges, police commissioners in my pocket. What do you have?" Chitty smiled. "Evidence." He nodded, and suddenly, every screen in the market, shop TVs, mobile phones, the large advertising billboard, flickered to life with the same video. Bank transfers. Meeting recordings. Photos of Chief Okoro with known criminals. A comprehensive documentation of 15 years of corruption, murder, and theft. Chief Okoro's face went purple. "You're bluffing. You release that, I'll have you killed within hours." Too late. It's already released. Every news outlet, every social media platform, every law enforcement agency in Nigeria and Interpol. Chitty's voice was ice. "You're finished, Chief. The only question is whether you go quietly or violently." For a moment, no one moved. Then Chief Okoro's hand moved toward his jacket. Everything happened at once. Guards reached for weapons. Marcus's team emerged from hiding, and Amara, remembering her training from that morning, grabbed Chitty and pulled him behind a concrete pillar just as the first shot rang out. But the shot didn't come from the syndicate. It came from behind them. Mama Ngozi stepped out from her stall, holding a police-issued weapon with steady hands. Behind her, a dozen armed officers in tactical gear flooded the market. "Chief Okoro," Mama Ngozi said, her voice transformed from gossipy neighbor to hardened professional. "I'm Detective Inspector Ngozi Obi, Special Fraud Unit. You're under arrest." Amara's jaw dropped. "Mama Ngozi, you're a police officer?" "Undercover for 3 years, baby girl. And you just helped us catch the biggest fish in Lagos." She winked. "Though next time, Maybe don't trust the market gossip so much. Within minutes, Chief Okoro and his entire organization were in custody. The syndicate's leadership, present to witness their moment of triumph, instead found themselves in handcuffs. As the police led them away, Chief Okoro snarled at Chitty. You think you've won? There will be others. There's always someone willing to take what's yours. Let them try, Chitty said quietly. But they should know I don't fight alone anymore. 2 months later, the grand opening of the Amara Foundation was held in a beautiful new building in the heart of Lagos. The foundation's mission, providing scholarships, business loans, and support for underprivileged youth across Nigeria. Amara stood on the stage in a beautiful Ankara dress, no longer the poor market girl but a woman transformed, not by wealth, but by purpose discovered. When I helped a wounded stranger in the market, she told the assembled crowd of dignitaries, business leaders, and young people from communities across Lagos, I had no idea it would change my life. But the truth is, kindness always changes us. It changed me 15 years ago when I met a street boy, though I barely remember it. It changed me again when I chose to help instead of walk away. She smiled at Chitty, who stood in the front row next to her grandmother. This foundation exists because 2 people learned the same lesson at different times, that our worth isn't measured by what we have, but by what we give. That the smallest act of kindness can echo across years and transform lives. The crowd erupted in applause. Later, as the celebration continued, Chitty and Amara stood on the building's balcony, watching the sun set over Lagos, the city that had tried to break them both and instead made them stronger. Are you happy? Chitty asked. Amara considered the question. She was enrolled in university now, studying business management. Her grandmother had the best medical care money could buy. The vendors from Balogun Market had received low-interest loans to expand their businesses. And she woke up every day with purpose, helping others the way she'd been helped. Yes, she said. But not because of the money or the foundation or any of it. I'm happy because I understand now why I've always felt compelled to help people. It's who I am. It's who I've always been. The girl who shares her lunch, Chitty said softly. The boy who never forgot. She turned to him. So what happens now? With us, I mean. Are we business partners? Friends? What? Chitty had been dreading and anticipating this question for weeks. I don't know. What do you want? Amara was quiet for a long moment. I want the truth. That day in the market, when you collapsed in my arms, you said, I finally found you. But Chitty, were you looking for the girl who helped you? Or were you looking for something else? Someone to fill a hole in your life? Her insight cut deep. Both, Chitty admitted. I won't lie. For years, I idealized you. The angel who saved me. But these past months, getting to know you, the real you, not the memory, I've discovered something I didn't expect. What's that? That the real you is even better than the memory. You're stubborn and brave and kind, but you're also sarcastic and messy, and you sing off-key in the morning. He smiled. You're not my savior. You're just Amara. And that's exactly who I want to know. Amara felt tears prick her eyes. That might be the best thing anyone's ever said to me. So, can we start over? Not as the street boy and the girl with the lunchbox. Not as the billionaire and the woman he saved. Just as Chitty and Amara, 2 people getting to know each other. Amara extended her hand. Hi, I'm Amara Okafor. I sell vegetables, I'm terrible at math, and I once helped a wounded stranger who turned my whole life upside down. Chitty took her hand, and instead of shaking it, he held it gently. Hi, I'm Chitty Okonkwo. I build tech companies, I'm obsessed with efficiency, and I once met a little girl who taught me that kindness is the most valuable currency in the world. They stood there, hands clasped, as Lagos pulsed with life around them. Somewhere in the city, another child was going hungry. Another person was making a choice between helping or walking away. Another seed of kindness was being planted or ignored. But in that moment, on that balcony, 2 people who'd saved each other across 15 years finally understood the truth. That destiny isn't about grand gestures or dramatic rescues. It's about choosing, again and again, to see another person's humanity.
To help when it costs you something.
To remember when it would be easier to forget. To believe that somewhere, somehow, the kindness you plant will bloom. Amara's grandmother appeared in the doorway, her old eyes twinkling with knowing. Are you two going to stand there holding hands all night, or are you coming back to the party? They laughed and turned to go inside, but Chitty paused. Amara, thank you for everything, but especially for this, for giving me a chance to be more than my worst day or my biggest success. For seeing me. Thank you for searching, Amara replied. And for reminding me that the girl I was, the one who believed in helping people, she was worth holding on to. They walked back into the light together, their story not ending but transforming. Because some stories don't end with happily ever after. They end with, and then the real work began. The work of building a life, of staying kind in a hard world, of choosing, every day, to be the person who helps the stranger. And in Lagos that night, as stars emerged over the city of 20 million dreams, two souls who'd found each other twice learned the greatest lesson of all, that you can't measure the worth of a single act of kindness. You can only be grateful you were there to give it, and humble enough to receive it when it's offered.